Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back here live with Kristin Mason. Excited to have our farm-based counseling services center with us. It's called Reining Hope Counseling, and she's based out of Morgan, Vermont. And we have gotten to know each other on a personal level and seen her beautiful horses, see the magic she makes and creates, and how she's helping so many children, young adults, and adults with her therapy services. How are you?
I'm great, Jill. Thank you. I'm especially great because it may be 20 degrees out, but the sun is shining and the horses are out and they love it. And because, they get cooped up when it's sub-zero temperature. So I think it's fantastic. I took my dogs for a walk earlier and, we had quite high winds here like everybody else has had, but I went out back in the barn and we started for the trail, and then I had to haul my poor little dog out with his leash because he sunk. We sunk.
Aww.
So we went around the barn, but that was about it. But the horses, when we went out, are sunbathing. They're just standing there in the nice sun, and yeah, it's awesome. There's no wind.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Aw, well, thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure having you. And for those that may not know a little bit about you and the work you do, would you mind just giving us a little overview?
So I work with horses and their people, and also dogs actually and their people. And I do counseling services. I do therapeutic riding services. I'm actually going to get more back into therapeutic riding
Wait,
services
because
more.
you love animals, do you mind if I interrupt 1 second? Look,
Go ahead.
this is my boy Simba, and yeah,
So pretty.
look, he's in a diaper. He's a male, and he's been spraying because he got my other cat
Naughty.
pregnant. But I obviously work from home, so I think you would. It's okay. He's so
Yes,
cute.
it's fine. I love it. Oh, I love his little tips.
He sensed that
scream.
you're like an animal lover, and I see him walking in the corner of my eye. I'm like, "Don't jump on me! Don't jump on me!" And I'm like, "Oops, okay."
That's really funny though, because anybody that has a cat that I do teletherapy with, every single person, their cat photobombs.
I
I
usually
see a
have him. I
tail.
usually have him locked up, but that's why the diaper's on. I had a break before. Wow.
Yes, I'm not kidding you. I see a tail or an ear or a nose, and oh my God, it's hilarious. The cats, they like to photobomb.
Oh my God. Sorry to interrupt, but thank you for being an
Oh no,
animal
I
lover
love
and
it.
drawing Simba's energy in.
Right? I love it. So you raise cats?
No, well, I have a
Or
cat
was it
that
an
we
accidental pregnancy?
No, it wasn't. Well, what happened was I have a cat from the shelter who's blind in one eye, and we adopted him a year ago. And then Santa brought a little kitten, not a year and 2 months ago, and I never got her fixed. And then someone I knew, that beautiful boy Simba, their son was allergic to him, and so I adopted him. And he wasn't fixed; he was only a year. And then I just let it happen because I grew up having kittens, and I know some people are like,
Yeah,
"Oh, how could you do that? Get them fixed." I'm going to, but I wanted my kids to
yeah.
experience the birth and the joy of litter and
Oh,
having babies. And yes, nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
Everybody, and they're going to be in good homes, and it's not, yeah. So thank
Oh,
you.
it's so awesome.
I love
60
it.
days. 60
Yes.
days. So when did this start?
Uh, uh,
So when's the due date?
yeah, no. Well, no, she had them. She had them December 23rd. She had five, lost two. So I have three in my home right now. So they're so cute. Three little fur balls.
Oh my God. Yay. I know.
Yay.
It's just like kids. You wish they could stay that little.
I know. And then I just hate the litter and all that part of it and the diapers. But yeah, in due time.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
I
okay.
know. It's like having kids, right?
It is,
We
exactly.
we raised Reddy, or seriously Reddy is what she's called. Her dad was Champ. His nickname was Champ, and his mom was Lily. And so we call it's so funny. I don't know why. I'm like, Reddy, are you ready? And like, seriously, ready?
Oh, I get it. I get
I mean,
it.
sometimes when you name them, you don't realize what you're naming them because you're
Yeah.
combining two names and everything. But we raised her, and she was a little imp when she was a baby. She'd hop up and down and like all 4 feet off the ground. She could still do it, but she's much more reserved now and a little bit better natured. But she's coming into her own. Sometimes it takes a while for them to grow up, which is kind of like kids, quite honestly. Sometimes it takes, a little while for the brain and the, behaviors to kind of kick in and connect and everything. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you. I love the conversation. I might sneeze now too. I'm not allergic, but I think I'm getting a cold. So I'll let you continue. We're talking about yourself and
Okay.
your amazing work.
Exactly. Well, a friend of mine just showed up. She's taking her horse for a walk around the loop, because, like I said, you cannot get through the woods right now because you'll sink.
Mm-hmm.
So she's going on our dirt road around. We have like a mile loop around our property, and so she was just saying, "So, what are you going to talk about today?" I'm like, "I don't know. My head is spinning because every time when I get ready for this, it's like so many things go through my head." But we were talking a little bit about boundaries and also a little bit about like change, right? So the we have a lot of change going on right now, and I'm not going to talk politics because I honestly can't stand it, but there's a lot of change in like how can we maneuver. I think I actually mentioned last time that I did have a teenager in my office that was quite upset and concerned about the climate of our world today. And I basically, what we talked about was basically like sometimes we have to stay in our little bubble
Mm-hmm.
for the time being because it's safe and that's okay, and if our bubble is happy and we need to stay in it for a little while and not turn the TV on and not go on to social media and everything, sometimes that's okay, but we also need to have boundaries, right? So we
Yeah.
need to, even with our animals, we need to make sure that they know we love them, but they can't take advantage of us.
Oh,
That makes
yeah.
sense?
Yeah, of course it does.
So kids, I mean, if you have a child or a kitten, you're
Mm-hmm.
responsible for raising them.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you teach them? How do you teach them to be assertive in a positive way, but yet still maintain those boundaries so that their own, as they're forming their own identities and um, values and everything, how can we instill in our kids and vicariously our animals, um, those boundaries without them losing their identities and everything, right?
Yeah, you're right. By the way, I have two kids too, so
Yes,
I'm just
I
laughing.
know.
I'm like, wait, 8 and 10, and then I got all these cats now. But go ahead, go ahead.
I know. Sometimes I mean, it pertains. And people, some people listening might take on certain pieces of this, just as I do. Like when I'm learning things, I'm like, oh, that really applies to me. And oh, I didn't know that. And oh, no, doesn't apply to me at all. So, I think sometimes when we're talking about stuff, and even the kids I work with and the families, like I had a family that I just did an assessment on. And it's hard because the kids, you, we all have to remember that we were kids once. We were pains in the butts.
Yeah.
We were, and we were curious. We got into things because we wanted to know about what was
Yep.
going on in our world,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then when you start having kids, which I don't, mine are all four-legged and fuzzy, but I've been,
Mm-hmm.
like I think I said a while ago, I've been working with kids literally since I was 12 because I taught swimming lessons to little bubble blowers in the lake here in Lake Seymour.
Aw.
That was fun. Try to teach a poor little kid that's trying to learn how to breathe underwater or hold their breath when a wave is coming, like, you know?
Aw.
Kind of symbolic of life, the waves come and you kind of deal with it. But um so yeah, and they were, and the preteen teen was like really worried because she felt like she wasn't being listened to, and she was worried that whatever we talked about in
Yep.
our session was going to be and she's like,
Aw.
every time I go and like, my mom always asks me like what's going on. It's like, well, your mom wants to know you're okay, but you can have boundaries. You can say, Mom, what I talk about in my therapy session is private, right? And so I have to explain to the parents, even though sometimes they forget, that yes, unless I'm worried about your child and that there's something going on that's beyond like we need to take other steps, I'm not going to call you up and say, hey, your kid say so and so, or your whatever. And that's how you build the trust with kids too.
Yeah.
And, and I think sometimes they don't always believe it either until it actually, until we actually go through the process. And then, sometimes things pop up and I remind them, like, so is this something that I really need to be concerned about? We need to pull your parents in and talk about it. And at that point, they're usually pretty honest and they're like either yes or no. And I'm like, okay, then I'm going to be checking on you in a couple days and, see what's going on. But it's really hard for parents to like let go and not say, you know, it's okay if they say like, hey, how'd your session go? Great. And if that's all the kids wanted to say, or, well, you know, it was okay, but I don't think whatever, but leave it at that, right?
Yep.
Let it go, leave it at that.
Let
Let
it
your kids have those
go.
boundaries, right?
Let me ask how it comes when, speaking of boundaries, right? In your work environment, right? You are, I'm not going to use the word contain boundary, but like you're working in an atmosphere which I've seen before. You have this amazing barn set up, and how many stables, how many horses do you have?
Yes, there's 10 here. I own 8 of them, or
Okay.
eight are my
Uh,
babies, my
I,
fur
I was,
babies.
I'm sorry if I'm distracted because this never happens. He just came back up
I'm
again.
telling I told you, it's okay. He can hang out there. I don't care if I see a tail or an ear or whatever.
Oh, such a good boy. Hi, Simba. Okay, thank you. And I forgot what I was even saying. I'm so sorry, but yeah, he's definitely
Contained.
he wants you. Okay, this is great.
Hey,
Um,
maybe he knows you need him right now. I don't
no,
know.
we were talking boundaries, and I forgot my thought now because he's on my lap. I'm so sorry. But talking about your stables, how many horses, and in the combine, you're doing all the work while you're in the barn with the client and the animal, and do you do this virtual too?
Yes, I don't do it with the horses virtually, but
Got
yes,
it.
I do teletherapy, which can be challenging with kids because sometimes, they like to play with the emojis, on the screen where they like, pop up a smiley face and stuff like that. Some of my younger kids. So it's way better in person, obviously. But yeah, we work in the barn and it's easier in the summertime when we can literally like go for a walk or to even take the horses for a walk or, if they're learning some confidence building and everything. Some people are very afraid of horses. So sometimes just like, okay, so maybe I'm okay. So if we think about being afraid of something and we need to expose ourselves to something that frightens us, but we want to work through it so we're not afraid of it anymore, right? So, for example, if I have a client, doesn't matter if it's an adult or a child, mostly it's adults, they're afraid because they know what can hurt them. Kids are oblivious and they, want to just explore the world around them. So, I have two minis, as you know, Winnie and Sophia, and sometimes introducing the kids and or the client to them first helps them kind of warm up to the fact that okay, these are little. We still have to have boundaries with them. We still have to make sure that they don't step on our toes or bite us or whatever, but then they can build up to it. So same thing like introducing, like if kids have social anxiety, for example, right? How do you introduce yourself to somebody?
Yeah.
Well, you can't just walk up to a horse and go right up smack to their face because they're going to be like, whoa, dude, what is going on? Right?
Yeah.
You want to approach them from a softer, kinder approach, like at the shoulder. So I might say to my client, like, okay, how would you introduce yourself to somebody? And then they would show me. And I
Mm-hmm.
would be able to go from there. And some people are like, they're in your face and they're like, hey, how you doing?
Right.
So then we talk about, and if a horse is there, they're going to react instantaneously because they're going to protect themselves until the end. So if they feel frightened or anything, so I'm like, okay, so how can we do this better? What if you went up to the side of the horse and patted it on its shoulder and said, hey, how are you doing? My name is blah, 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 whatever. It's amazing how quickly things can change around,
Yep.
how quickly, they can address some of the things that, like if they're too assertive or too aggressive or whatever. And the other thing is too, is like, okay, so you maybe you have too stringent boundaries and you don't want to let anybody in.
Yeah.
So how can you balance that, right?
Well, when it comes to balancing things, I'm so sorry. My cat is hanging off of my thing. I'm the worst host today.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Don't
It's
apologize. It's fine.
okay.
It
He's
really
gonna go.
is fine.
I'm
Believe me,
like,
if I had my
I'm
door
sorry.
open
He's
right now,
digging into me, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to focus, but it hasn't been easy. And I don't think I'm allergic, but I
Fireball,
keep, yeah, I have some. So sorry.
you're okay. If I had my door open right now, I'd probably have two dogs and a cat in here, which
Really
maybe next time I'll let them in and you can see.
awesome. Okay, okay. I lost train of thought again. I'm so sorry.
You're
Please continue.
fine.
Thank you.
Fine. So we were just talking about like approaching and boundaries and everything. So another thing is that some um well kids and adults, doesn't matter, individuals sometimes like to like hug on people, right? So I'm a hugger. So, I mean, I will ask people like, do you want to hug me or whatever? Or do you want a hug? Do you need a hug or whatever? But I always ask because some people aren't okay with that. Well, same thing with dogs, same thing with cats, same thing. Cats are a little bit more independent, so they'll really let you know, they'll just disappear. But horses, especially, like if any horse can be unpredictable, any animal can be unpredictable just because of the nature of, them wanting to keep themselves safe. And some kids have been, okay, so I'm off on a tangent right now, but some
Don't worry.
kids, I know I'm like all over the place, right? But this is who I am. So some kids with trauma may also be kind of like, I want you with me, but I don't want you with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're matching a child that has trauma or even an adult that hasn't dealt with their trauma, um, one of the things that horses do is they are very understanding and non-judgmental, and they will accept. However, if you get too much in their bubble and they're not ready, or they sense that you're not ready, they're going to back off, right? So when you were saying where I do things, I don't tie. If we're working on this kind of stuff, I don't put a horse on a cross ties. We go out into the arena and a safe space so the horse can get away if they
Mm-hmm.
need to, right? And quite honestly, if this client needs to get away, kid or adult needs to get away, they also can remove themselves and go to a safe space, right? So I'm kind of like the mediator in all this, or facilitator, whichever you want to
Yeah.
describe it as, right? So when you've been through trauma, you also have the same instincts as, say, a horse, right? Same instincts as an animal. You're going to freeze, fight, flee, or as a also, there's another one, fawn, which is kind of just get like paralyzed, or go with it, go with the situation, right? So when I talk to a client that has been through trauma, some of my horses have also been through trauma, and I can relate the situations, parallel them to what is going on, right? So, say a horse was whipped, like somebody
Oh,
was not very nice and they
break
were
my
like
heart.
whipped and like, you know, beat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I have a child who either has witnessed domestic violence or actually has been abused
Oh.
themselves. I can be like, okay, so this is the horse. He needs a gentle approach. He
Oh.
needs, your understanding and non-judgment, and he needs me to make sure that he's in a safe space. So who's the person that keeps you safe? Can you keep yourself safe? The horse can keep himself safe because he's going to be out of here in 2 seconds if he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel safe, right? So how can you keep yourself safe? What do you do? Do you shut down? Do you trust somebody, you know? Or do you just flee and just get out of there, or do you fight, quite honestly?
Ah,
Do you like fight and act out? So some some kids that have been through a lot of trauma might act out, right? Or if they've
ah.
even witnessed it, they may like just they don't know they're doing it because they don't have that capability until they're older to figure out like, well, why did I? Well, because that's what I saw. That's what I thought the normal of life was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can a lot of things can parallel with horses and people.
It's amazing, but like they can pick up on that stuff. It's just
Mhm.
wow. Wow. And didn't you have I don't know if it's one or more horses, one that was abused, was not fed well, or didn't you adopt a horse from someone that had some type of
There was a horse that I ride bareback, wasn't necessarily abused. It was more of a naivety or ignorance piece because they didn't understand the importance of appropriate fitting tack, their own balance, the nutritional needs of the horse. And
hmm
so this horse well, I would say he's probably a little less trusting at first. But once we figured out that was afraid of a saddle because he never had a saddle that fit him appropriately, right? Which I suppose I mean, I wouldn't call it abuse per se. I think I would call in that case a little bit of naivety and ignorance as far as like not being educated enough to realize that just because the saddle fits you does not mean it fits your horse, right?
Yeah.
Because horses are shaped differently, just like us, right? I mean, some have short backs, some have high withers, some have, longer backs, some, have whatever, round barrels and etc. So one of the things that shows up sometimes is that either or the tack it doesn't fit properly, or the rider doesn't fit
hmm
because the saddle can be too small
Yeah.
or too big for a rider. So if it's too big, they're gonna, slosh around in it. If it's too small, they're gonna be like pitched in a position that's not going to be balanced. They're not going to be able to be balanced. So the horse is going to try to balance them,
Yep.
which can throw everything off, right? That kind of goes along with our therapeutic riding, where when if I need a horse for a certain rider, I have to really kind of look at everything. I have to look at the personality of the horse, personality of the rider, what the rider needs as far as like movement from the horse. Horses move exactly like us. I don't know if you know that, but
No, what do you
they
mean?
they have front and back rotation, side to side,
Oh.
and yeah, and then rotational in their hips. So that's why horses are so awesome for helping like kids and adults with cerebral palsy, for example, because if you have somebody that has spasticity, meaning that they're tight, you want a horse that has more rhythmic movements. And if you have somebody that is more lax in their joints and their muscles and everything, you want a horse that's a little more strappy. So they
hmm
engage the core, they engage your muscles. Riding is the only sport that affects every part of a human's body.
Wow.
The
Wow.
neurological, the cardiac, the respiratory, everything. If you really think about it, because you have to engage your core muscles in order to stay on a horse, for instance. You have to breathe because if you don't breathe, you're going to tense up and then the horse is going to tense up.
Yep.
You know, respirations, you have to breathe. Your heart, you're working. It is actually an active activity, even though some
hmm
people don't think it is, especially when you're walking. Your nerves, every single muscle. Like when you sit on a horse, there's no way that any part of your body cannot be affected if you think about it.
Oh, I haven't been on a horse in so long. You're making me, I can't wait till the spring. There is a stable around the block. My friend's son goes. I want to go bring my kids.
You
Oh,
need to. You need
yeah.
to. Absolutely. So anyways, I know we were kind of like all over the place today.
I know. Sorry.
One thing kind of leads to another. I
Mhm.
think I can't have like I'm not one of those people that can have like a topic. It has to lead to whatever. I know that drives some people crazy, but hey, you got to be who you are, right?
I like just the conversation, but sometimes people are just very picky, and I just want to make sure. But thank you for dealing with my chaos today with my baby. My
Love it.
baby. That's not too much
Next
chaos.
time you're gonna have to bring a kitten in so I can see the kittens.
I will. I will. Do you want? I can actually pop off and go grab them if you want. Do you have a second?
Yes,
Do
absolutely.
you? All right, cool.
Yes.
Give me a second. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Yes.
I love them. They're so cute. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So he's got tips just like, so what color's the mother?
Okay, this is I call him Cuddles. So hold on. This one is my son calls him Big Yeti Boy because he looks like an
It's a
abominable
Yeti.
snowman. Sorry, my
Yep.
mic isn't on. I'm just talking loud. This
Oh no,
one's
you
got the
can hear.
blue eyes and white too. Mom is
Oh,
like
that
a
looks like dad.
yeah, exactly. Yes, very similar. Yep. Dad, mom's a Persian Himalayan. She's not a purebred, and he's a purebred. I think he's like a Siberian something from Russia. I have no idea. I don't care. I
Tiger
just like
stripe come in.
I'm not breeding them or anything, but look,
Where did tiger stripe come in?
I don't know. Well, mom's all gray. They're so
Oh,
I just want to squeeze them, right?
I know. You can't let them go.
I know. And I'm gonna have six cats, and my kids are begging. They're begging, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I will.
This is why we don't breed horses because I would keep all of them. My boyfriend says no.
Well, I'm
Oh
not going
my
to put my
God.
headset back on, but I'm going to
Oh,
ask
you're
how we
fine.
contact you.
You can either contact me via email, KRIS12MASE@gmail.com, or give me a holler on my phone, 802-895-9166. Oh my God, they're just so cute.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Pleasure having you. We'll talk
Thank
soon, okay?
you. Yeah, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.